Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to our closing session of the 5th Annual Climate Restoration Forum. This session is entitled Knowledge is Power, Time to Take Action. So over the course of the day, we heard some incredible panels, gained a lot of knowledge, and in the workshops, hopefully a lot of you got to attend those, participate in those, and gain some new ideas and new skills that way as well. For those of you who were part of the action workshop, the advocacy workshop, you already took some action today, which is great. You're already a step ahead. But what we want to do today in this session is talk about what exactly you can do now. How can you get involved going on now that you have all this great information in your head at your fingertips? What can you do to keep the momentum going and be a part of this growing climate restoration movement? Before we do anything else, I'd like to turn it over to Aisha Sheikh to give us her climate story. Aisha is a fantastic young volunteer. She finished our Youth Leaders for Climate Restoration program and has continued to stay involved and continued to lead on climate restoration in her home country of Pakistan. Aisha, over to you.
Thank you, Rick. I would like to take this opportunity to open the panel discussion session for Knowledge is Power. Let's take action. Friends, actions are really important because they help us to utilize the knowledge we have in our mind by reading books, listening to people, and having the experiences around and translate them into the action to create a positive impact for the people around us, for the community that we care and we want to change for better. There are a lot of conferences and sessions being held around the world for climate action, climate change, and climate restoration, but not many of them have a great impact. Because saying words and acting on them, these two are different things. But today, what we want from you are the actions. We want to wrap this year's forum by talking about taking actions and utilizing the knowledge that we have from you for creating a better impact. As you all know, a lot of people go through a lot. The result of climate change in the world is worse. It can take away the education from a child, it can take away a family from a child. I myself belong from a community, from a region which have experienced recent floods, and the impact of those floods was not good. It actually destroyed everything for everyone, and it is really costly. Let's begin.
Thank you so much, Aisha, for joining us and for sharing your story. It's so inspiring to hear from young people around the world who have experienced the impacts of climate change and have used that experience to drive their action and activism towards climate restoration. So thank you so much for everything you do. And thank you to everyone who's participated today. This has been a really exciting day for all of us, I think. And, particularly having been at all of the 5 forums, I think it's really incredible to see how far we've come over the last few years in just moving the conversation forward. The idea of restoring the climate instead of just trying to avert disaster was such a new phenomenon in 2019 at our first annual forum. And now there's so much to it. There's so many people who are already on board that it takes a whole day of information and workshops to really bring everyone up to speed with what's been happening just in the last year alone. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy life to be here with us and bring yourself up to speed. We started today with a Climate Restoration 101. Let's start with the basics. What is climate restoration? And for those of you who tuned in, you got to hear not just about the idea of, what does the goal of climate restoration mean, but what does it look like in practice? How do you how do you enact policies that are supportive of climate restoration? How do you ensure that projects are being implemented equitably? How do you get the youth on board and educate the public? And that really set the stage for the rest of the day, I think. The first workshop of the day was harnessing the power of your climate story. And this is one of my favorite topics because over the last several years, whenever someone has asked me how they can get involved, there are a lot of things that people can do, but the biggest one, I think, is just talking about climate restoration. And that sounds pretty straightforward, but it can be confusing in practice to know what exactly it is that you can say to the people in your community that will really be impactful and inspire them to shift the way that they think about the climate. So, in that workshop, we got to not just hear about in theory what makes a powerful climate story, but we actually got to practice making our own stories, telling them to each other, getting feedback and sharing about what really worked and didn't work so that we know moving forward how can we talk about this stuff in the most powerful way possible. We, of course, had to talk about the amazing climate solutions that are happening, but I thought it was really fun this year to have this focus on kind of the trends and the challenges and the opportunities that are arising in the carbon removal industry because this sector has grown so much in the last few years. And any fast growth, any hockey stick growth is going to come with some growing pains. So, identifying what those obstacles are early on, like this, so that we can look for ways to address them, I think really lends us a lot of power in uh, really setting the path that we want to be on moving forward. Next, we had the Centering Justice and Climate Restoration panel, where we heard about some of the challenges and opportunities on the climate justice front. I think just having this conversation present really says a lot about where we've come as a sector because we've moved on from just saying, we need to figure out the physics of how do we get all of these carbon atoms from the air into other places to now saying it's one thing to move the carbon. It's another thing to ensure that we're really addressing systemic inequalities that have arisen as a result of the development that has led to climate change in the first place. So let's look at how we can resolve this problem in a way that resolves those systemic issues that we've created in the first place. And uh, I think the workshop that followed that gave people an opportunity to really see what does that look like on the ground. Theoretically, there are a lot of interesting issues we can delve into, but in practice, oh my gosh, it's so complex and so fascinating. And there's a lot of progress happening in really providing frameworks and guidelines for how to enact climate restoration projects in an effective and equitable way. Next, we heard about grassroots victories and grassroots victory lap climate restoration progress around the world. And it's so fun to hear from this growing international movement and see that, what progress looks like in the US or in the UK. It's really different from how it looks in sub Saharan Africa or in Asia. So, hearing from some of our partners around the world about what are they working on and how is it going, what challenges are they facing, really reminds us that this is really an international challenge that we're facing and an opportunity to work together collectively. And that led us right into the workshop, weaving local action into a global movement, where, as Rick alluded to, those of you who joined us got to actually take on specific actions and really get fired up by what it means to not just hear about and think about these issues, but really do something meaningful yourself so that you can dip your toes in the water and see what it's like. As I like to say, many of us are walking around with a huge amount of eco anxiety, feeling like just the impacts of climate change are pretty dire. It's really an overwhelming issue. And the best way to combat that eco anxiety is by getting into action. So thank you to those of you who joined us for that workshop, and an even bigger thank you to those of you who have been and will continue to be involved, or who are just going to get involved out of this event. Your participation really makes the difference here. And now here we are at the closing session. And again, thank you for being here. And I'm going to hand it back to Rick.
Thanks so much, Erica. Again, what a day. That's a great summary that you provided, Erica. And I'm particularly pleased that all of these sessions are going to be available very soon on YouTube for you to watch and rewatch multiple times if you need to. There's a lot there. And I know in past forums, I've rewatched sessions and learned new things that I somehow missed the first time around. So I encourage you to check out the Foundation for Climate Restoration's YouTube page and look out for those videos here in just a day or two. So the next thing I want to do is give an overview of the Foundation for Climate Restoration's transition. As I mentioned earlier, this month, F4CR is undergoing a substantial transition. We're going to be moving to a volunteer-led structure. One thing that this means is that we're going to be losing our all-star staff. So what I want to do is just take a minute to recognize each of them and deeply thank them for the incredible work that they've done with F4CR over the years. Terry Pugh, our Director of Civic Engagement, who many of you got to engage with during the advocacy workshop today. Delaney Hughes, our Director of Solutions, Equity, and Stewardship, who, again, many of you saw on a panel today, as well as hosting the equity workshop. Hilda Berganza, who is our project manager and youth program manager. Hilda has also been behind the scenes today, making sure that all of these videos are streaming correctly and that the right person is featured at the right time, and doing all the logistical coordination behind the scenes to get us to this day as well. So Hilda, special thanks for all that you've done to make the 5th annual forum a success. Also my colleague here, Erica Dodds, who's really been my thought partner and my work partner day after day, minute by minute. I could not have done the work I did without you. So Erica, thank you as well. So F4CR is going to be continuing as a nonprofit organization, but in a different and leaner structure. So I'll talk about what we're keeping in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about what we're handing off. I'm really excited to report that Girl Up, which is a NGO that is related to the United Nations Foundation, Girl Up is going to be taking on our Youth Leaders for Climate Restoration program and our high school curriculum on climate restoration. Girl Up, to date, has not explicitly been involved in climate work. So I'm particularly excited that they're jumping just right into climate restoration in this way. I've been working closely with Girl Up's executive director, Melissa Kilby, over the past few weeks to make sure that this program handoff is smooth, that they have everything they need, and basically so these programs can get right in there and continue the incredible momentum that they've gained under F4CR's leadership. I'm also excited to report that our solution series will live on. It's going to be taken on by a new nonprofit called Lot 21. Lot 21 is led by Lou Epstein, who's an advisor to F4CR and who has been deeply involved in every aspect of the solution series since its inception. So Lot 21 is focused primarily on the design industry and how climate change can be affected and impacted by changes, by mindset changes within the design industry. So we're really excited to see the solution series go to Lot 21. In the current iteration of the solution series, we still have 3 carbon dioxide removal methods left to report on. So I'm really glad that Lot 21 is going to be seeing this through. So I encourage you to follow both Girl Up and Lot 21 as they take on these programs from us and bring them different types of life and bring them to new audiences and new levels of scale. Next, I want to introduce Alan Hyman. Alan is a longtime member of F4CR's board of directors, and he's also the incoming chair of F4CR's board of directors. I want to talk with Alan a little bit about what we're keeping at F4CR and what his vision is for both the near term and long term future of the organization. All right, now it's my pleasure to introduce the incoming chair of the board of the directors, Alan Hyman. Alan has been with the organization as a board member for many years now and is going to be stepping into the role of chair within the next few days. Really excited about that. And Alan, really happy to have you here today in the closing session at the 5th annual forum.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
All right. So as you heard, I was just telling everyone about the programs that we're handing off to Girl Up and to Lot 21. And what I wanted to talk to you about is what is F4CR keeping? What are we going to be doing in the near future now that those other educational and youth programs are going to be housed elsewhere?
Great. Yes. So first and foremost, we will continue to function as an organization that has members. So people can become members of F4CR by going to the website, registering as a member, and that allows them access to information on the website and to participate in our we'll either have bi-weekly, I mean every 2 weeks, or even weekly calls where people can get the latest and greatest information of what's going on in F4CR. So our mission, as I see it, is to educate, advocate, and motivate. So we will continue to provide education to our members of what's going on, how the climate could be restored, and we'll continue to advocate, taking stronger action to support those that are trying to get legislation through or to start a project or a business, advocate for them to help restore the climate. And then, of course, to motivate ourselves to have conversations with all our friends, with our contacts, our coworkers, to basically spread the conversation as much as we can. As you know, climate restoration is a goal we set out for, and we're committed that climate restoration is really an idea whose time has come, and that we have to continue with mitigation, but it's time to start taking greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere. And we will not stop until the climate has been fully restored back to 300 parts per million. And that's what we're going to educate about, advocate for, and that's what we're motivated to do. So you're asking, what are we continue? We're going to continue with the weekly calls or bi-weekly calls. We have some great people that have volunteered to become new directors on the board. The background of anywhere from scientists to political advocates to people that are trained in highly trained in communication have all agreed to become new members of the board. And I couldn't be more excited about trying to work with them, although I am truly going to miss Rick and Erica. I wish they were still with us, but we're going to try and keep things going for sure. Keep things going.
Well, that's great, Alan. And I mean, speaking for myself, and I know I can speak for Erica here, we'll definitely be following along every step of the way and cheering everyone on. This is our community. These people are our people, and no matter where our professional lives take us, I know that a piece of my heart is always going to be with this organization. So it sounds, Alan, really like a big goal is to continue fostering the global community that we've been building via our local chapters and other routes. Do you see what's the role that you see specifically our local chapters? Right now, we've got over 40 chapters in 19 countries. How do you see them continuing to be involved and maintaining the momentum that they've built so far?
Yeah. So first and foremost is they have to talk. They have to get out and talk, open their mouth, bring up the conversation. I know for me, having been on the board for a few years now, the first time I started talking with somebody, it was kind of like we're at a wedding, talking about how great the food is, how great oh, by the way, what do you think about the climate? So it's kind of you have to have a little courage to maybe shift the conversations. But after you do it a few times, you find that uh, a vast majority of the people do want to hear what you have to say about the climate. So I think the chapters will continue to speak out, to educate people on that this is not a foregone conclusion, that there is, we speak of a future that we can restore the climates and a possibility that that we're not going to become extinct on this planet if we get our act together. But we need to do it quickly. So that's the primary thing I think the chapters will be doing, is continuing to put out that message. They will continue to write letters, meet with decision makers, both in the private sector and in the public sector. And you'd be surprised that when you start talking about the climate, the contacts that you'll make. And I know from the chapters that they have created a relationship with people in industry that we can advocate for, that are building technologies that will sequester carbon dioxide out of and methane out of the atmosphere. So they will continue to do that. I think that answers your question, right?
Yeah, definitely. And Alan, you brought up a really good point that I think we try to repeat this every chance we can, because it's so true. You don't have to be a climate expert. You don't have to be a climate scientist to be an advocate with F4CR. You've got to care about the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really kind of the one criterion. Beyond that, we've got people in the community who will train you, who will coach you on how to be a more effective speaker, on what exactly the processes are that can restore the climate. All of that can be taken care of. If you come in wanting a better world, you're in the right place, and the community will take care of the rest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to seeing all kinds of new people joining in with F4CR in local chapters and starting new ones here in the months and years to come.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think we want to, someday have an annual event with you there, with Erica there, with everybody there, and 500 to 1,000 people all there cheering F4CR on to continue to advocate and educate.
Absolutely. What a fantastic vision. I'm confident that that's going to happen in the near future. So, Alan, thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks so much for stepping into this new leadership role, and wishing you and the rest of the team all the best in moving forward.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Next, I'm very excited to be joined by Senator Dave Cortezi. Senator Cortezi is a member of the California State Senate, and he has been a big supporter of climate restoration for many years now, starting when he was a county supervisor in Santa Clara County in California and introduced a resolution there on climate restoration. Now in the California State Senate, he continues to take a leadership role for our climate. And I'm really excited to have him here today, particularly to talk about a new resolution that he just introduced in the California State Senate. Senator, welcome. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Rick. It's great to see you again, albeit electronically, and I'm very happy to be here and happy to have the opportunity.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. Tell us about this new resolution that you introduced in the California State Senate just a few days ago.
Yes, Senate Resolution number 34 is all about climate restoration. And this, of course, would be a first in the state of California. That's a good thing in one sense, is that we've got something introduced, and we've got something introduced that I think is meaningful and frankly directs the state agencies and local governments to pay attention to what we've been calling for and what the Foundation for Climate Restoration has been calling for all along, which is a goal of net zero and getting legacy of pollution and concentrations out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I've got to say, the language in that resolution is very strong, strongly things that we at F4CR have been calling for, as well as others in the climate restoration movement. Can you talk for a minute about what people can do? So there are a lot of different people who are watching this right now. Some are in the state of California, others are in other parts of the US or other parts of the world. So let's start with Californians. What can an individual citizen who lives in California do to support SR 34?
A lot of the good policy action is happening at the local level. It's something that I've been very consistent about since first invited to speak on the eve of the UN Climate Summit with the foundation a few years ago. And my emphasis then, as a county supervisor of a big urban county, the biggest one in the Bay Area in California, one of the biggest ones in California, was we probably are going to have to do this one town at a time, one county at a time, one province at a time internationally. And this resolution actually directs it. Actually directs the agencies, including CARB, our Air Resources Board, California Air Resources Board, to distribute this resolution and this emphasis on climate restoration to every city and county in California. And of course, it dictates to CARB to do the same thing. So what can local people do is, it's a lot easier for most folks in most states and in most places to get to your local municipality or your local county or provincial or regional board and talk to them, let them know this has to be a plan. While there's a tremendous amount of emphasis on reducing fossil fuels, and with some folks, of course, it's absolutely non-negotiable that we would continue at all with fossil fuels, we can't lose sight of the fact that there's a huge opportunity here, both by way of innovation and just good policy action to do climate restoration in terms of, removing legacy carbon. And the reason I say people need to bring that up is because it's easy when you get to statewide levels or national levels for one choir to drown out the other. And, we all got to be in this together. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And as you know, Senator Cortezi, we've got an amazing crew of volunteers all around the US and around the world who work really well together and collaboratively with other organizations as well. So I'm really excited, really grateful that your resolution is going to be a springboard, I think, for others like this in cities, states, regions, and even countries around the world. So before we let you go here, just wondering if there's anything else you would like to say as we move forward into yet another critical year for the climate.
Yes, with this, fifth annual Climate Restoration Forum, I can't believe how fast time goes by. And of course, time is the enemy in one sense, right? We're in a race against time. We all know that. But something else that folks can do, and I want to leave this with you. I emphasize local governments, cities and counties, of course, just a minute ago. This resolution needs to get to the governor's desk. And it's possible that some folks who focus their priorities a little bit differently than we do in terms of our climate restoration movement might try to slow it down. And I would certainly like to keep in touch, with the foundation as a clearinghouse to those folks who on their own, might like to call in or write in when this bill is at key points in the process going forward. I don't want it to be any kind of a problem, and I don't suspect it will. But there's nothing better to level the playing field than voices, especially in this democracy that we have here in the way it operates in California.
All right. Well, Senator, thank you again so much for your leadership, for this particular resolution, and for all that you continue to do to support the climate restoration movement and to support our planet. I hope that we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Likewise. Appreciate it.
So now it's time to close out this year's forum. I want to start again by giving a special thanks to my colleague Hilda Berganza for all of the incredible logistical work to make today go off flawlessly. Thank you so much, Hilda. And again, I want to thank all of our staff members, as well as all of our interns. We've had an incredible group of interns this year from the University of San Diego who are part of the California College Corps. So special thank you to Zoe DeBrew, Nick Faber, Megan Quinn, and Emma Peters for all that you've done this year to increase the success of F4CR's work. Also, a special thanks to our board of directors. Your ongoing leadership and partnership with me has been truly, truly valuable. Thank you. And again, thanks to each of you who tuned in today, and to those of you who are watching the recording later on. We can't do this without our community. In fact, our community is what makes F4CR truly special. So thank you. I look forward to continuing to be a part of the climate restoration movement with each of you. So just a reminder, if you're not yet involved with the Foundation for Climate Restoration, check us out online at F4CR.org. That's F, the number 4, CR.org. You can learn more about what we do and sign up to stay in the loop. So that's it. Thanks again for joining us at the 5th Annual Climate Restoration Forum. Take care. Good night.